now start the panel session. So I'd like to invite the President back. Please, President Toroama and the Chief Secretary back to the panel. So I'm peering in to see whether the PM wants to join the panel or not. PM. Oh, you're right there. Okay. Now, Regional Member Bougainville. Good blood through. This is what you call total support for the efforts. United Front. Amstrada. So we'll give him time to get mic'd up. I'd also like to welcome some other speakers representing the private sector who are on Bougainville and playing a role in building the Bougainville economy again and taking up the President's challenge. Firstly, from Bank South Pacific, Kili Tambua, who's the head of the branch network, BSP Financial Group. Kili, please come and join us on stage. So Kili's been the executive director since April 2023. He was appointed to the BSP Capital Board in April 23. His professional career expands over 29 years in banking and finance. You can just sit next to President, as I said. Including senior management roles within retail banking. He holds a master's degree in business administration from the University of PNG and is affiliate to the Australian Institute of Banking and Finance. Kili is my cheat code whenever I have an issue with BSP. I go to him or Daniel Font to have it resolved. So it's so great that Kili is on stage with us. The BSP operations in Bougainville, particularly its retail operations, all fall under the purview of Kili. So, and joining Kili on stage is Deborah Onga, the Group Legal Counsel Steamships, of Steamships. Now, Deborah is a qualified PNG lawyer. She joined Steamships, so Deborah, if you can join us as well, just on this side, please. She joined Steamships in March 2018 as a property lawyer and has transitioned to the position of Group Legal Counsel. We're extremely proud of Deborah as one of our star female lawyers in the corporate sector. She has very legal experience in corporate compliance, employment, property, and dispute practices. Prior to joining Steamships, Deborah was employed in the corporate commercial practice Ashes PNG. And I think, Deborah, you're enjoying Sydney, huh? You've been up in Hagen running the Highlander in a troubleshooting role for the last couple of months. So welcome, Deborah. And then all the Hageners are clapping. Absolutely. And then the next to join us is Michael Koisen, who needs no introduction, but I will introduce him anyway. So Mike is the non-executive chairman of the board of directors of Capital Insurance Group. He's currently the group CEO. Mike, I'll let you sit here. So he's currently the group CEO of Teachers Savings and Loan Society Limited and non-executive director of TISA Community Finance, now known as TISA Bank. He's a fellow of the Australian PNG National Airports Corporation. He's the fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, a fellow of the Australian Mutual Institute, a senior associate of the Financial Services Institute of Australia. There's a lot of financial institutes here, Mike. It's very long. Mike brings with him a wealth of business experience and knowledge. We also have joining our panel, of course, I'll introduce him again, Sir Mel Togolo. I won't run through your CV this time, Sir Mel, but if you can join us on the other side. So we've run out of chairs as well at the ICC, so I won't be joining them I know you're on the other side, but for me. And so don't view as president as a sign of disrespect that I'm currently standing higher than you on the stage. But I think firstly, I'd like to invite the regional member, given what you've heard the president with his speech, and also the Prime Minister, from your perspective, regional member, maybe to give some remarks. And I think you're mic'd up, so you can do it from the panel. Am I right?
Thank you, Anthony, for this opportunity. Firstly, I acknowledge the Gadigal people, of which this land we here on, and this beautiful precinct. I also acknowledge all those that are here today to hear our President speak this morning of Bougainville being ready for investment. I do really appreciate our President setting the overarching policy and the vision that we have before us. As the regional member, Anthony, I have, in my tenure, my short tenure, reassured our people in Bougainville and then the national government that we have a plan, and we have only one plan on Bougainville, which is the Bougainville Integrated Development Plan, which is an integrated plan between our president and the national government. Excuse me, and the national government through this, through a plan that is an integrated plan that speaks of the way we align a vision of the national government together with the intention and the intent of the Bougainville government. And it's pleasing to also note my good chief secretary here, Kearneth Nanei, also again diving into how we as a government administratively are also putting mechanisms in place and ensuring that all our departments now have corporate plans, which enables the intent of our vision, Vision 2052. And so I'm, as a regional member, I am the voice in the floor of Parliament to continue to echo the aspiration of our people. And today the PNG Core's program, or the Week of Investment, providing I guess the avenue for us to showcase what we as a region have done, despite the many challenges that we faced, despite that we're only 19 years old as a government. Our people has a long history of being very, I guess, you know, we're a very industrialized type a group of people, and so the many challenges that we faced, in my view, as a regional member, the government that we have in place, and the vision behind our government, and the leadership that our president has been at the forefront of, and ensuring that while we have the political will, the administrative is also starting to contextualize the vision, and as the regional member, for me, advocating for our people and our government, and giving confidence. I believe in the way both governments have been able to, and I must give credit to our Prime Minister, been able to embrace our journey. And in the tenure of the Marape Rosso government, this government has been able to really support Bougainville to ensure that it has the resources to set the framework, but also to set the base now for the economic activity on the ground. And so, Anthony, I'm in my view, the people of Bougainville have been ready, are ready. We can't wait to engage with Starlink, and I want to commend our president for the significant step in collaborating with yourself and the Starlink team here. And I believe my Prime Minister and the national government will be embracing Starlink. But I'm really, really happy as the regional member and as a Minister for Police and Internal Security also. Starlink will play a pivotal role in our security, in ensuring that we have connectivity right across, not just in Bougainville, but right across in Papua New Guinea. So the sooner we can get that opportunity, the sooner I guess the ecosystem will be conducive for all to participate equally at all levels. Thank you.
Minister, thank you so much for your perspective. It's reassuring that also as a person who wants to see Starlink in the country, the police minister is an advocate. I wish you were handling it at the airport so you could let us through when we bring all the Starlink units. Apparently, JB Hi-Fi and Pitt Street, one customer went in and bought 50 units of Starlink after that presentation. So I digress. But I think what we've heard over the last hour is really strong outline of vision by the President and a strong statement by the Prime Minister and the regional member about government doing as much as it can, both governments, ABG and the national government, to ensure that there is an environment that's conducive for investment, but now it needs investors to come in and it needs the business sector to come in. And the early movers, or the first movers that came in, were obviously the financial services sector, some of the logistics providers and development and insurance and and land developers that came in. And so, Kili, from your perspective, very quickly, if you can talk really about the history of BSP since the crisis and what you see as the challenges and opportunities for BSP in Bougainville, and reflecting on what you've heard from the President, the Prime Minister, and the regional member.
Thank you, Tori. So our story goes back pre-independence, when the bank was first established in PNG in 1957 under Bank of Australasia. And then we moved on to operate under PNGPC after independence, and moved up to, BSP took over. But in that 67 years of history, Bougainville has been a part of that story. We've been there on the highland prior to the independence, and we're still there. Now, the conflict started in 1989 when I was in college, I remember. It ended about 11 years. And after 11 years, for the bank, after 24 years, after college, I worked for the bank, and after 24 years, I returned back to the island. And I was told there's only one name that you need to get connected with, Ishmael. And when I went there to do feasibilities, I caught up with now the President. We had a good story there. After that, I invited him back to Port Moresby. We had more conversation, and we finally reached an agreement. And we got established in 2013. We made a decision to go back to 2013. But prior to the conflict, and even throughout the conflict, BSP was always there on the island. We were still open for business in Boca. There were other banks in this year's Westpac, ANZ, many other banks. They all closed and left the island. BSP remained open. To this day, we are still there. So our story goes back that far. And after that, we established our branch in Arawa. And we've gone further to expand the banking service. If you go to Bougainville Island, BSP is on a highland when you enter the highland at Boca. Across the passage, drive down the highway to Wakunai, there's a branch. Keep going 4 hours or so, 5 hours maybe. You come to Arawa, there's a branch there. And then keep going further down at the bottom, we have Buin branch. So we have 4 branches today. And BSP made a decision to go back because we have, as the Papua New Guineans know, we have a big role to play. There was no other corporate names that entered Arawa prior to us establishing the banking service there. After our establishment, it's good to see that few the corporates are coming in town and continue to build the business community there. Today, we have 300 Air Force devices spread across the island, almost about 10 ATMs. We have about 10 BSP agents spread across the villages. And I think on this occasion, I also am pleased to announce that last 2 weeks ago, our group CEO, Mark Robinson, had made the approval for us to pull down the whole Arawa branch, and we'll build a bigger, better, modern branch in Arawa. So that's how connected BSP is with the people of Bougainville.
Thank you, Kili. And Congratulations also, and thank you to the board and management of BSP to have that new branch up there. It'd be nice to get another branch also, Kokopau, side of Buka, where my Tambus are and have property, so we don't have to take the boat to the other side. So the other company that's had a strong role pre-crisis with logistics, property, owned a lot of property, was Steamships and Swire Group. And since the crisis and since the restart, Deborah's had a big role, I think, in getting clear all the land back and the other issues. So Deborah, I was going to ask you very quickly, maybe talk about what Steamships, its plans are and what it's doing in Bougainville after crisis, and particularly in recent years, and what you see as the challenges and opportunities for your investment in Bougainville.
Thank you, Anthony. For the Steamships Group, I'll just give a bit of a history. Steamships was there pre-crisis in terms of its supporting roles in logistics. We owned Steamships Hardware and Steamships Retail at the time. So many Bougainvilleans have very, very fond memories of Steamships from the days they called the happy days, the good times. At the time of the crisis, Steamships was the last to leave. The consort vessel, Steamship Shipping, was the last to leave and service the people of Bougainville. And so it is only appropriate that we also take the first step to go back and give confidence to the people of Bougainville. I think in terms of rehabilitation for an area that's been damaged by war and civil war, many times we forget the people. They matter the most. So in us going back to Bougainville, we had to take a humanistic approach in reestablishing ourselves back on the island. We started off with seeking consent from the Bougainville government through the Office of the President and the Department of Lands and the Department of Trade and Industry. Once we obtained consent, we started quietly engaging with the locals that are currently on the land. Now, when you go to central Bougainville, it's overgrown with bush. And what you can see on Bougainville is remnants of what a beautiful place it was prior. When you pick up the old physical planning maps, you find a beautiful town that was designed. A very, very well-structured, well-organized town. So as our developer hat, the first thing that we do is, of course, you have to identify where the old assets are sitting. And it required a lot of engagement with people. It's not like Papua New Guinea on the mainland where the police and the defense force and you can go show title and go back on. The challenge now is how do you help regain back the land for development? And so that required a lot of stakeholder engagement, months and months of sitting with communities and engaging with them and re-educating them on state leases and customary land, and how releasing state lease would enable investor confidence. And these conversations with people will take not 1 day, not 2 days. They may be repeated conversations, but when you align with the people and they understand the bigger picture, it enables that confidence to come back. And I can tell you for sure that the people of Bougainville are ready for investors to come back into Bougainville. And I assure you that because my first container that went onto Arawa set with fencing material, set without any police presence, any security personnel. It was the local communities that provided us community security. And that shows their heart and their desire to see businesses come back onto the island. In the land repossession project that we've undertaken, I am confident to say that I have paid no landowner compensation to repossess any of Steamships' properties. We are towards the completion of completing over 24 properties that Steamships owned prior to crisis. The next phase will be working with other development investors, the super funds and other developers as well, to design what can become of Bougainville. But again, I think the reassurance, especially for Central Bougainville, has been the way they have interacted in releasing state leases back to state leaseholders for the purposes of redevelopment on the island. And that gives confidence that the people are ready.
Thank you, Deborah. Resounding voter confidence, President, in the work that you're doing in terms of making, or your government's doing in terms of making the old investors welcome to come back to restart. Mike, your teachers are the owners of TISA. You represent them. You're obviously the CEO, you're the chairman of Capital Insurance Group, which they're the largest shareholder. Teachers basically worked through the crisis, keeping schools open and other things. You were one of the first to go back to service your teachers, and TISA and CIG as the first insurance company to go back into Bougainville to provide coverage to support the investments that the other two companies and others are making. Can you talk also about, briefly about what you have been doing since, and obviously the plans now for TISA Bank going back into Bougainville?
Yeah, it'll be brief, Anthony. Yeah, thanks very much. We have on the island 5,000 member shareholders and their families in the region. So we went back, returned to Bougainville in 2009, established in Buka. We've been there 15 years. And that's because those families are there that own us. And therefore, we had a responsibility to return. And presently, we're negotiating to acquire some land on Buka Island to build a double-story office to house our bank, TISA Bank, and our insurance company, Capital Insurance Group. In recent times, in 2023, we're happy to have signed an agreement with the government on Bougainville to establish insurance. After 31 years of no insurance companies willing to go into Bougainville, we returned in 2024. This year, we established Capital Insurance Group in Buka on the island of Bougainville to provide insurance services to the region. So we're committed to stay and support the work of development on Bougainville because a lot of families that are there that depend on financial services and particularly insurance. Insurance is intangible, as we know, and also in Papua New Guinea, our people don't quite appreciate insurance. It's not like rice or tin fish that you can buy off shelves. So a lot of awareness needs to happen on Bougainville, on the value of insurance and how it can support businesses. So we're working together with the administration on Bougainville. We have a responsibility, we feel, to make people aware of the value of insurance. And also that will give confidence for investors to come into the island to invest.
Thank you, Mike. So obviously we have the legacy of mining, but I want to deal with that last. We're supposed to finish at 10, but we have such a unique panel here that I'd like to go a little bit over time, if you don't mind. Those who want to leave can leave. But I guess my question back for you, President, and then as well as for the Chief Secretary and the regional member. Like you've heard from the old investors coming back, what is the work or the incentives that you're providing, the support, apart from the personal connection, the personal invitation, to support, to get the old people who are familiar with Bougainville, who already have that equity of those old relationships to come back in? What are the incentives and the support that you have been providing, or the government has been providing to them? And President, let me ask him you. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think just by looking at the environment, firstly, in us in Bougainville, we create an environment that should be conducive in the longer term, and to build the security around the environment, the social environment. We encourage the locals to, work. They create the workaholic society between them. The hardworking people in Bougainville create that opportunity, and that opportunity, once it's being created, when people is being seen that there is an environment that, you know, the people themselves create. You know, there is a good space in between. In the early days, we try our best to, you know, it's coming out of the post-conflict, so we try to manage most of the fighting men in between. So whilst managing them, bringing them, saying that, look, the transition of Bougainville going into the next stage it's really important for us to work together so that in enhancing relationship, and of course with the national government of Papua New Guinea, into our past leaders going into the negotiation, and that, you know, creates the substantial, you know, environment moving forward. So I see creating that opportunity is an ongoing process for us Bougainvilleans. As Bougainville sees itself, you know, they're all peace-loving. You know, Bougainvilleans are, you know, ready to accept whatever that comes, but on terms which we can participate, the people can participate, and in creating that environment, you know, it enables whoever that comes in to get that opportunity. Just like the Bank of South Pacific, BSP coming in, and I'm pleased to hear that you are now trying to build a good bank in somewhere, maybe in Arawa and Buka. But, you know, if you come to Arawa, you will see the all container, you know, building, BSP. People come with hard cash. You will never happen to see that in Mosby or in other parts. You know, there will be people robbing them just right in front. So the environment, conducive environment we create is a great opportunity for, you know, for the people first, and then for investors coming in, and for the government whilst embarking on a high-impact project. So I think there is opportunity is there. So we are working so hard to create that. And moving into the future, Bougainville towards, I think it's, you know, it's one of those peaceful places here that you can, you come and see for yourself if you, you know, want to visit Bougainville. I think the environment is welcoming for everyone to come. Thank you.
Thank you, President. I can attest for how peaceful it is. When I go to back to the village in Hagen or Yakamul, people don't leave me alone, but I go to Buka and I have the best sleep that I experience all year. But Minister, what can you add to the President's comments? You've done a lot of work evangelizing investment in Bougainville.
Tony, certainly our people, as I said earlier, we are very industrious. But one thing for sure is that every single person on Bougainville, in my view, because of the fact that we, a greater part of the 9,000 square kilometre of the land, well, not necessarily the atolls, but main Bougainville, is covered by cocoa and copra. Now, if I have the agricultural minister here, or if you go through the website just to look at the commodity and prices, but at the same time to the volume that Bougainville has been able to produce in the last 3 years has been substantial. We have hit record high of output of cocoa, which means that there's high volume of cash on the island, which means that there's also young men and women fully engaged to the land. And when you're having young men and women fully engaged to the land, you can be rest assured that there will not be any idle hands sitting around doing nothing. There in itself lies security. They're engaged to the land, so they are not looking for other extra curricular activities, so to speak. And as my president said, we are people that we embrace our visitors. And more than ever, the hunger and need for us to be part of the movement of the global community. While the world is changing, we also want to be part of that change. But one thing for sure, we will never compromise our culture and our belief for being custodians of our land. Our strongest point of difference is that everything we do, it resonates with our land and our culture. And so if the sooner our investors appreciate that we totally love our land, that we will protect our land in terms of our culture and preserving our land. And I want to commend both the President, our ABG government, and the Chief Secretary for, in the next few weeks, I believe they may be passing the green and blue policy, which speaks of a policy that embraces both the land and sea, and how we can integrate with the way the global community is going towards sustainability and preserving and conserving our forest. At the same time, also, there are opportunities for where we have the extractive industry, but in the bigger picture, in terms of where the global community is pushing towards the more sustainable space, we also now have that policy that is being that is soon be passed with our ABG government. And so, just adding on to our president, our people, our greatest asset as any other country. We are fully engaged to the land, which means that in terms of security, there will not be any element of idle hands because everyone is fully engaged to the land. And we will embrace the opportunity for investors to come in and partner with us and take us on that journey. And I, again, want to appreciate PNG Core for giving us this platform for Bougainville to give confidence to everyone out there, all our global community, to be part of our growth of Bougainville. It's a unique space. We are at a unique position in the Pacific. If you look at in even tourism, we are at a strategic position where we have the Micronesia channel, I believe, where you have Fiji, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Bougainville, and Eastern Britain and New Ireland. And so that in itself presents an opportunity for the tourism industry to even prosper. We have a very strong tourism team on the ground, which are doing a phenomenal job. We've had more high-end visitors, not necessarily the big vessels coming in, more the niche market, the super yachts that have visited Bougainville. And again, it's very unique, not only because of what we can present as an island, but also that World War II, we are a very strategic island that a lot of the Allied forces were based out of a place called Toroama, where I'm from. And I've been fortunate that even for the fans of Australia who love rugby league and those that watch the State of Origin, and I'm sure there's a lot of blues and maroons in here, more blues, I guess, that recently I went over to Melbourne. NRL acknowledged that the first trophy that was played for State of Origin was actually played in Toroama, in Bougainville. So there in itself is another unique product for presenting Bougainville. And I was fortunate to be able to present a Japanese artillery that both the Allied forces played while they were waiting to be repatriated back to America or to Australia. So we have a lot of opportunity apart from the extractive industry. The tourism industry is a bigger part. But overall, young Bougainvillians, current, those ones out of Bougainville that are sorting education, but those back on the land are fully engaged on in getting activated with our with cocoa, copra, and any support in that space. I must just lastly say, Anthony, for far too long, we continue, and I want to acknowledge my Minister for DPI. For far too long, Australia, we do a lot of partnership with our cocoa festival. we have a cocoa festival that happens every year that promotes all our cocoa growers. But I believe now's the time for us to be firm that we no longer want to to run this festival, to identify best practice or best growers. We know naturally that we're already producing niche cocoa. Now we need investors that want to put a factory there. Put a factory. You will not go wrong in Bougainville with the quality of cocoa that you're going to be producing on Bougainville. So I just wanted to also get that opportunity while I have to just echo that there's a great need for niche cocoa production on Bougainville. So thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Minister. So you've heard from the Minister and particularly from President Kearneth. And I know you've got 5 building blocks: key institutions, land, law and order, regulatory mechanisms, and key enabling infrastructure. Just very quickly on regulating mechanisms to facilitate all these investments and everything they're doing, what is the most non-mining related? What is the most important regulatory mechanism that either you've put through or you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, I think in terms of a very important mechanism, I think the land is very significant. Land is very, very important. So basically, one of the things we are doing is freeing up those government land, especially, the steamships on the ground. We want to free up government land and do proper design, scoping, and zoning and all that, so that we can be able to re-establish the private sector back into those land. And I think the example from Steamship is very important. They came on board. They had a lot of land down in Kiata, Epi Valley, Toniva, and they found their way around in terms of coming back to get those land for development. And very important was they came to the government. And with the government, consultation with the local people who have been there, they were able to bring those their assets together. And I guess that would be the same for those that have owned land in Bougainville, especially for the private sector. The government is there. Come over, get your titles over. We work together. We go and show you. You get your land, and you start to develop it. We've got a number of mining contractors at the time that they've land down there. So that's an incentive, and in terms of the government providing the land, I guess as the minister and the president have said, Bougainville is open for business. In terms of law and order, enforcement of the rule of law, we working with the national government, working with the government of Australia in terms of increasing the police infrastructure in Arawa, in central Bougainville, in Buka, in Buin, as well as rebuilding, reconstructing the Kuveria CS facility. I guess that is very important in having the safeguard of the investors with the law and order. But otherwise, it's very safe, and our friend from BSP can tell you that maybe the only bank that they don't have a fence around is down in Buin. It's very, very safe there. But law and order is important. The other thing is creating that enabling environment for economic landscape. I guess we are working with the Investment Promotion Authority to create an investment registry facility, so that once you come to Bougainville, you can register as a Bougainville entity, and then we can be able to regulate you from there. So those are opportunities, and those are what the government on the ground. And I guess we, as much as possible, we want to free the land for the private sector to come in and invest. Obviously in partnership with our people, but also with the local content framework that we have on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So we're going to try to finish up very quickly, but Mel, I don't want to talk about mining. I don't want to talk about BCL. I I want to talk about, getting investment into the non-mining sector. For you, what is the thing that you would like to see to really spur that investment going back into your homeland?
I think, first of all, if you look at big picture, in many countries, strong economies are economies that are open, are economies that are diversified and multifaceted investment. I think that's the big picture. And Bougainville itself, not only because of its innate nature, there are resources available that can be used. If we go back a little bit of history, Bougainville was the largest cocoa producer, the largest copra producer at that time. It had some of the most productive plantations, and still are in there. A growth industry like Panguna or even clusters of plantation industry is very good for the country. And basically, it's not astronomy science, but you employ people, they will provide government with revenue. Not only, and most of us are a bit blinded by the direct benefits that comes out of either the agriculture industry or the fisheries industry, but we overlook the fact that there are indirect benefits from employment that are very important, because it's through employment that you get GST, which is indirect. When you have a direct employment, of course you pay income tax. But if you go to the supermarket or a trade store and buy goods, bread and tin fish or whatever, you're actually contributing. But you can't contribute if you don't have any source of income. So I think it's very important to look at an emerging economy in that sense. You look at countries in Asia, Singapore, Taiwan, they're very strong. Then you look at US. It's not only Americans investing in the US. They're investors from all over the world, and they are open, and that's why you get strong economies. I think we don't have to go too far to get examples of good economic management. Australia does that. Even big population is good for domestic market. You look at China, they had one-child policy. They decided, no, that was no good. Our economy is dying. You look at Japan, all age, no young people. So you're supporting a whole lot of unproductive population without young people around. So all of that, I think, Bougainville will have to look at that sort of scale, that sort of perspective to become big. And I think because we've gone through this sort of hardship, now we are now looking at broadening our view of what could happen in Bougainville. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samel. I'm going to give President the last word. President, is there the last thing you want to say to the audience? This will be televised. This will be sent all around the world. What's your last call on behalf of Bougainville as president?
Thank you. I just want to thank this opportunity, firstly, for giving Bougainville the space in which we have presented ourselves. And Bougainville is there. If you're interested in Bougainville, you come, have a walk into the beaches of Bougainville, and you can feel the friendly relationship and the friendly people in Bougainville, which their arms are open to embrace you. Bougainville is open for business, to invest. It will be in the 5 to 10 years' time. Bougainville's economy will be growing. And We don't want you to miss out. Come and invest in Bougainville. Thank you.
That's a great closing. I will declare at my outset, for those who don't know me, I am married to a Bougainvillean. I have a, as I'm reminded by my neighbor here, a very, very big house on Sohano Island. My children see themselves as having effectively dual identities, Papua New Guinean and Bougainvillean. I am particularly excited by the opportunity that Bougainville has internationally. It has the ability now to effectively go back to first principles, to rewrite how it does business, how it runs its people, how it sets up its society, whether it's technology such as embracing Starlink, whether it's how it manages its finance, how it ensures that all of its citizens participate in the economy going forward. It's an extraordinary opportunity, not just in PNG, but globally, to set an example. And it's wonderful that the Bougainvilleans have such an open mind about innovation, about embracing new ideas, about being bold in making those changes. It's absolutely phenomenal. And you can see it in the wisdom and in the thoughts that have been expressed here. You've got various generations here on the stage, and the way that they've embraced and welcomed back their old friends who've invested in them and been partners in the development up to the crisis, and utilizing them to evangelize for bringing more investors in. It's a phenomenal opportunity. I am so inspired, as I know many people are, in what's happening in Bougainville. All of us are coming in to help, and I hope that everybody here takes up the opportunity to come back and really invest or participate and be a partner in an extraordinary global story that is happening right now, which is effectively creating something magical out of the ruins of what has been quite a traumatic experience for Bougainvilleans and for Papua New Guineans. So thank you so much. Thank you for staying the full duration, 4 minutes before the next session. But I really appreciate it. This is a historic moment in time, and I appreciate the participation of Prime Minister, the Chief Secretary, and the leaders who've been here, all the members of the investment community that have participated, the investors who've gone back in, who've done the hard yards and are helping rebuild and buying into the vision that's been expressed, the leadership and wisdom provided by the pioneers such as Ishmael, the young generation coming through, as represented by Chief Secretary. I was told before he took this job 6 months ago, he had a full afro. He's obviously lost all his hair with all the work that he's been doing. The young leadership coming through with Peter Chamalili. He talks about cocoa. He didn't mention that he makes the best chocolate, best milk chocolate that I've tasted. The best dark chocolate is made by another Bougainvillean, Karina Makori of Queen Emma. But I give you credit for that. And particularly the leadership of President Toroama. He took up weapons in the war, the civil war, and the trauma, and the pain, the struggle that you would have gone through over 10 years to witness all that suffering around you. Then to put that aside for the interests of your people, to craft a collaborative future, working with Papua New Guinea, working with Australia, working with all our partners, bringing all the people together 5 years ago for that vote. And now really working with business community, working with international partners, and a very strong relationship with the national government to build this path for future. It's an extraordinary display of leadership. I tell mining companies and other extractive companies, they get upset over little points in a contract and hold it up, and they throw tantrums. I say, mate, you have never experienced a real issue like what the Bougainvilleans have experienced and what they're able to rebuild out of it. This is a truly extraordinary story that we're seeing in Bougainville, and I'm so proud and happy that President, you, Minister Chamalili, Ishmael, Chief Secretary Kearneth, and everybody else have taken the time out to participate in the program. This, for me, is the best part of the program. This particular session is absolutely historic. So please join me in thanking all of our speakers today.